And today's story is chapter 64. Change yourself and others will follow. The Samurai and the Horse. When the Zen priest Bankei, 1622 to 1693, was still an acolyte, every night he would sit in meditation. One morning after meditating, he was resting by a stable when a samurai came along to train his horse. As Bankei looked on idly, it became apparent to him that the horse was out of sorts and balking at its rider's commands. The samurai yelled at the animal and beat it. Bankei shouted, "What do you think you're doing?" The samurai paid no attention, but only whipped the animal all the harder. Bankei kept on shouting until finally Samurai dismounted and walked over to him. "You have been scolding me for some time, I believe," he said quietly. "If you have something to teach me, I am willing to listen." His words were exceedingly polite, but it was clear that depending on what kind of answer he received, he might erupt in anger. Without hesitating, Bankei told him, "It is foolish to blame only the horse for failing to listen to you. The horse has its own reasons. If you want it to listen, you must encourage it to do so. To do that, you must start with yourself. You understand?" This was a humble and intelligent samurai, for he nodded, bowed, and left. Then, with a change of attitude, he remounted his steed. Sure enough, the horse too was now a changed creature, and docilely obeyed his every command. People constantly blame others for their own faults and find no peace. The essential thing is to take an honest look at oneself and correct one's own attitude. Do that, and others will change too. Your home life is guaranteed to be happier. So the chapter started with the episode of samurai and Zen priest Bankei, who was very famous, and ended in the advice about having happy home life. At the beginning, I was wondering why the author emphasized the happy home life. It can be office situation or relationship with neighbors, but the author mentions happy home life here. And I thought and thought, maybe at home, it's the place where we find it most difficult to change ourselves. Instead, we always expect other family members to change their behavior. And we reveal our true self. We reveal more of our true self toward our family members, our raw emotion, and our true intention without sugarcoating it. And then we have a lot of conflict and argument. Yeah. So there are a lot of problems in human relationship, but I think most of them come from those between family members. I was surprised to know that in the statistics in Japan, there are many hundreds of homicide in a year, in a certain year, and more than half were between family members, like partners or between parent and the child, or grandparent and the grandchildren. Yeah, more than half was did happened among in the family setting. I think it's almost similar in the United States too. People bought more and more people bought guns during pandemic in order to protect themselves from burglars or third-party people who come to their family. But many of them ended up using the gun toward their own family members. So it's understandable because family members are the closest, we have closest relationship. When we become closer and closer, we find out other people's faults more and more. And then it annoyed us and it bothered us so much. And then we mention it with words without sugarcoating it because we think they are our family members. We assume they will accept it, they will understand it. It's part of our conceit. People are not so obedient or so open. It's clear if we look at our own mind. We cannot change ourselves. So the bottom line says the essential thing is to take an honest look at oneself and correct one's own attitude. It sounds easy, but it's the opposite. It's the most difficult thing in the world to do. Instead of correcting our own attitude, we always expect other people to change their attitude, especially in the family setting. So I think we should spend a lot of time in taking an honest look at oneself, at ourselves. We need to take extremely long time and a lot of effort in this. Take an honest look at ourselves. Practice self-reflection. We believe that we think instead of correcting our own attitude, we want to suffer. Suffering is better. I mean, that's our attitude. We don't want to change our attitude. Then we should not expect others to change. That's the same thing. So if we don't want to change ourselves, we should not expect others to change too. So yeah, at least we should keep this in mind. Then there'll be less friction, conflict. Yeah, and then if we reach the conclusion that we want to solve a certain problem in family setting, then we should start with ourselves. Yeah, this is the starting point, especially for us who move forward on our spiritual journey. Okay, so that's today's conclusion, what we can learn from today's story.